All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. It is Thursday, not Tuesday, but you know what that means. Time to do the Tao now, ladies and gentlemen. Reading from Dr. Wayne W. Dyer's Change Your Thoughts, Change Your Life, Living the Wisdom of the Tao. And today we find ourselves all the way to the 78th verse of the Tao Te Ching. 78, ladies and gentlemen, out of 81. And so we are getting so close to the end, and I didn't want to skip this week. The computer had a little bit of uploading opportunities, as we call them, instead of issues. That's a great lesson there. If you don't make it any further, call all of your issues or complications or struggles opportunities, ladies and gentlemen, because that's what they are. Hope you got yourself some tea, got ourselves some green tea. Smells so good. And today the tea says, may all beings be happy. And that's why we're here, ladies and gentlemen, is seeking to achieve and maintain happiness through enlightenment, through greater awareness and a greater understanding of reality, so we can increase the quality of our experience or the quality of our lives. And so, with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, let us dive in to the 78th verse of the Tao Te Ching. And Wayne Dyer entitles this little section, his little essay on the 78th verse here, trying to help us apply the wisdom of this 2,500-year-old knowledge into our lives today. And he titles it Living Like Water. Living like water, ladies and gentlemen. Isn't it always interesting, all the references that there is to water in spiritual philosophy and the metaphor that water can be used in describing a flow of energy, or what some would describe as the God force. I call it the force, the Tao, universe, or just God in action, as some would describe it. But with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, let us dive into the 78th verse of the Tao Te Ching and see what we can learn for ourselves here today. And thank you again for joining me. Like I said, hope you got yourself a beverage of choice and you're comfy, and we are ready. All righty. 78th verse of the Tao Te Ching. Nothing in the world is softer and weaker than water. But for attacking the hard, the unyielding, nothing can surpass it. There is nothing like it. The weak overcomes the strong. The soft surpasses the hard. In all the world, there is no one who does not know this, but no one can master the practice. Therefore, the master remains serene in the midst of sorrow. Evil cannot enter his heart. Because he has given up helping, he is people's greatest help. True words appear paradoxical. And that finishes the 78th verse of the Tao Te Ching. And I love this verse because of the final line there, which should be put at the end of every single verse of the Tao Te Ching, because every one of these verses is paradoxical. And the truth, when you are a philosopher and a seeker of truth, or a lover of truth, so to speak, these paradoxes are something that really capture you, I would think. They capture me, at least, ladies and gentlemen. This is just my ramblings. Let me know what you think in the comments below. By the way, the painting's looking really good today. It's got just the right amount of light. Usually there's like a reflection, too much light, coming off of it. I mean, I'm shining over here, but that's fine, ladies and gentlemen. See, this goes back to the 36th verse of the Tao Te Ching here, and listen to the paradoxical nature of the first two lines here, and you'll know then what a paradox is. Should you want to contain something, so you're trying to contain something, you must deliberately let it expand. Should you want to weaken something, you must deliberately let it grow strong. Should you want to eliminate something, you must deliberately allow it to flourish. Should you want to take something away, you must deliberately grant it access. This is talking about the wisdom of obscurity. As Lao-tzu describes it, the gentle outlast the strong, the obscure outlast the obvious. Fish cannot leave deep waters, and countries' weapons should not be displayed. But see, these paradoxical kind of ideas run throughout this wisdom of the ages and the wisdom of the Tao. But ladies and gentlemen, talking now about water and the philosophical understanding that we can use from coming to be more familiar with the nature of water. So we'll go through this 78th verse again and then dive into what Dr. Wayne Dyer has to say about this. Nothing in the world, it began, is softer and weaker than water, but for attacking the hard, the unyielding, nothing can surpass it. So water breaks through the cracks, so to speak, even though it is weak and soft. There is nothing like it, he reminds us. The weak overcomes the strong. The soft surpasses the hard. See, these are the paradoxes. Because we would normally think of this as being the opposite. In all the world, there is no one who does not know this, so it is common sense, this knowledge about water and the way that it is, but no one can really master this practice. I would say that's probably because not many people think about mastering the practice of the philosophy and metaphorical analogies for the nature of water to our own lives. But that is why we are here, ladies and gentlemen. So if you're here and you're getting value, thank you. I really appreciate you seeking after wisdom and truth. So therefore, the master remains serene in the midst of sorrow, and that is always just a teaching that goes throughout all of this spiritual philosophy, spirituality, whatever you want to call it, mysticism, ladies and gentlemen. But can we remain serene in the midst of, Lao-tzu says sorrow, but I'm sure it translates to, many things in that same kind of feeling, in the midst of chaos, in the midst of anger, in the midst of hectic times, in the midst of trouble. Can we remain serene? It says, therefore, the master does so. Evil cannot enter his or her heart, ladies and gentlemen, because he has given up helping. He is people's greatest help. Now, that is a confusing one to me, because if you've given up helping anybody, how then have you become their greatest help? Well, true words, it finishes with, appear paradoxical. So, now, what Wayne Dyer has to teach us about this 78th verse of the Tao Te Ching. Living like water, ladies and gentlemen. In researching, studying, Wayne begins, and putting into practice the 81 verses of the Tao Te Ching, I've been struck by the many references Lao-tzu makes to water in its various forms. The sea. It's like, that ain't water. Plasma, maybe, but the sea, rain, fog, mist, snow, and rivers and streams. The esteemed master seemed to find his spiritual strength in all of nature. But he must have had a special reverence for water and how it functions in all of our lives. And see, this is what I was getting at a minute ago about how not many of us would take water and then use it as a spiritual, metaphorical reference for a lifestyle kind of philosophy. This kind of guy, Lao-tzu, must have been a real deep thinker. But, ladies and gentlemen, that's why we're here, to try to get this knowledge for ourselves. So He must have had a special reverence, Wayne continues, for water and how it functions in all of our lives. Be like water seems to be repeated throughout the Tao Te Ching. Be like water, ladies and gentlemen. This element is closer to being Tao-like than anything else in the world, Wayne says, so it is a perfectly suitable symbol for teaching about the Great Way, which is the Tao, the Way, the Tao Te Ching, the book of the Way, or the book of the Great Way. Water is a mysterious force, and it is as mysterious to us as the Tao is. When you reach into the river, Wayne continues, and try to squeeze it tight, you end up losing it all. Water is elusive until you cease grasping it and let your hand relax and be one with it. Paradoxically, you'll get it by letting go, ladies and gentlemen. And so this is a great lesson to think about when attempting to, I first learned this lesson when it was like, I forget what it was, but somebody asked the question, like, how can we attempt to be one with God or come to know God in, these kind of ideas? And the answer was like, well, it is like swimming. I think it was Alan Watts who I first heard this metaphor from. We'll come back to this in just a sec, but he was talking about that question and then this idea of swimming in water. And so in order to swim, you do not go in the water and try to stand on it and get control of it and hold on to it and brace yourself on it, because you can't. It just sinks, you flow through it. And so it goes to this philosophy of letting go and relaxing. Remember that line, how many of us can remain serene in the midst of sorrow or chaos, or in the midst of the struggle of trying to stand on the water and climb up out of it? And so in the same metaphor for trying to flow with life, or maybe get closer to God, or whatever. I mean, there's many ways you could take this. This is just a metaphor for many things. But ladies and gentlemen, the idea that you must relax and let go and then begin to go with the water and work with it, and then you can finally begin to swim, so to speak. Once again, just something I like that really stood out to me. I don't remember the exact context, so it's probably not making it as great as I thought it was, but just like what Wayne Dyer was talking about here, this Tao nature, this force way, universal way, the God force way. In other words, that there is a way that we can go about life to where we have a much higher quality of experience. And so this phrase, be like water, seems to be repeated throughout the Tao Te Ching. And this element, like Wayne was saying, is closer to being Tao-like than anything else in the world, so it's a perfectly suitable symbol for the Tao. And so when you reach into the river and try to squeeze it tight, I'm just going to go through what Wayne was saying here now, and you end up losing it all. Water is elusive until you cease grasping and let your hand relax and be one with it. Paradoxically, you get it by letting go. Lao-tzu advises emulating this element in all of its undecipherable and mysterious ways, even if it seems contrary to what your intellect and conditioning, and I'll add ego mind, is telling you. Lao-tzu reiterates, Wayne continues, 3 themes that appear throughout this book. They are true characteristics of water, Wayne says. So you can take notes if you'd like, because here are the 3 themes. Number 1, overcome the unyielding parts of your life by yielding. Hard and rigid are overcome by the relentless application of gentle things, such as water's soft flow or steady drip. So be persistently gentle and willing to surrender, and watch the resistance of the harsh and implacable wear away. Interesting. For years, Wayne says, one of my family members who insisted on damaging herself and her relationships by ingesting intoxicating substances has been met by my loving but firm response. Persistently gentle, as Wayne was saying it. But slowly, over time, her hardness began to wear away in the face of the steady drip, drip, drip of gentle but resolute kindness, acceptance, and love. It can be discouraging at times, but as Lao-tzu points out in this verse, we must act just like water and use a soft approach. Quote, for attacking the hard, the unyielding, nothing can surpass it. That was number one. Number two, the themes of water that you'll find in the Tao Te Ching. Wayne Dyer thought it seemed that there were three themes, ladies and gentlemen. So number two, water appears to be something you could easily overpower. However, it's so flexible that once you push it out of the way, it will find its own level below all strong things and patiently enter where nothing solid can block its resting place. Put up barricades, erect levees, and make everything waterproof, yet enough passage of time, the flexible quality of water will triumph. The weak overcomes the strong. It is a powerful message for you and for us, ladies and gentlemen. Wayne says, remember to stay flexible. And we had a whole video on this a couple weeks ago. Remember to stay flexible, willing to lower yourself in humility and appear weak, but knowing that you're in harmony with the Tao, with the force, with the way, ladies and gentlemen. Lao-tzu urges you to be like the master who remains serene in the midst of sorrow, and evil will not be able to enter your heart. Number three, ladies and gentlemen, on the themes of water from the Tao Te Ching, coming to us from Wayne Dyer. Number three, water is so soft that it can't be harmed, damaged, or destroyed. It simply returns to its source to be used over and over again. Boil it until it disappears and its vapors enter the atmosphere and ultimately to return. Drink it, and it returns after nourishing your body. Pollute it, and it will return after enough passage of time to become purified nourishment again. This is all accomplished because of the element's mutable softness. I would add, its magical nature. Has this ability that's very fascinating. More than you may have ever realized, more than I've ever realized here from learning that last little bit. So when you stay soft, Wayne says, you surpass the hard. You too will be indestructible. And then Wayne reminds us, this is the first time actually in this book, but he says, parentheses, reread verse 43 on living softly. So let's do that real quick. Boom, right to it. The 43rd verse of the Tao Te Ching. The softest of all things overrides the hardest of all things. That without substance enters where there is no space. Hence, I know the value of non-action. Teaching without words, performing without actions, Few in the world can grasp it. That is the master's way. Rare indeed are those who obtain the bounty of this world. So, that was the reference Wayne just gave us when telling us when you stay soft and surpass the hard, you too will be indestructible. There's nothing softer, Wayne continues, than water under heaven. And yet there's nothing that can surpass it for overcoming the hard. There's so much wisdom to be found in this analogy of water and the spiritual wisdom of being like water. Stay in your soft mode, Wayne continues. Hang back when you're about to show how hard you can be. Try patience rather than attempting to rigidly control. And trust your innately gentle self. That was number 3. So, having that be said, Wayne continues. Having that been said, I don't know, I've been saying that a lot lately. Anyways, I love Mary Oliver's beautiful poem, Wayne says, Wild Geese, in which she speaks of this idea that we've been talking about here. And the poem goes like this, ladies and gentlemen. You do not have to be good. You do not have to walk on your knees for 100 miles through the desert, repenting. You only have to let the soft animal of your body love what it loves. Tell me about your despair, yours, and I will tell you mine. Meanwhile, the world goes on. Meanwhile, the sun and the clear pebbles of the rain are moving across the landscapes over the prairies and the deep trees, the mountains and the rivers. Meanwhile, the wild geese, high in the clean blue air, are heading home again. Whoever you are, no matter how lonely, the world offers itself to your imagination, calls to you like the wild geese, harsh and exciting, over and over announcing your place in the family of things. That was beautiful, ladies and gentlemen. I've never heard that poem. That was Mary Oliver's Wild Geese. From his 2,500-year-old perspective, 2,500 years ago, ladies and gentlemen, Lao-tzu reminds us of how much we have to learn from nature, all of nature, especially and particularly water, and urges us to put these ideas into practice. Number 1, ideas that we can try to use to put into practice from this knowledge, the spiritual knowledge of water. Change the way that you look at strength versus weakness. Remember, that's what this whole playlist and journey has been about. It has been about changing our thoughts and changing our lives, changing the way that we look at things, and then the things that we look at and experience change. While for others, it may look to be the same exact thing still, but when you experience it much differently because of the way you think, it has changed for you. If you're getting value, thank you for being here, ladies and gentlemen. I really appreciate you. So we're changing the way we look at strength versus weakness. Wayne says, see that stereotypes, and that's what a lot of this comes down to, is the stereotypes that we've all been taught. And actually, the paradoxical opposite nature is more often the reality. See the stereotypes of rigid, hard, forceful, cocksure, and dominant aren't abilities and attributes of strength at all. In fact, these qualities will lead you to be suppressed and overpowered by softness, or what we've called weakness. Change the way you look at all of this and watch your world change, ladies and gentlemen. When you begin to admire and emulate those who stay flexible and pliable, it says weak and pliable, When you begin to admire and emulate, you'll see the true strength in yourself as a person of harmony, of the Tao, of the way, of God, of the force, of the universe, grand organized design, great spirit, nature, ladies and gentlemen. Give up interfering and helping, and opt instead to stream like water gently, softly, and unobtrusively wherever you're needed. Number 2 here on how we can be like water. It says be soft like water. Like water, flow everywhere there's an opening, rather than attempting to dominate with your forcefulness. Soften your hard edges by being more tolerant of contrary opinions. Interfere less and substitute listening for directing and telling. Substitute listening. So that seems to be like a reoccurring theme for me in my life. It was something I learned from my mom because my grandfather, Leon Flitz, I was just taking a moment there. My grandfather, it was like a lesson that he was teaching by not saying anything, either to me or to many people in the later years of his life. This quality of listening. And you can almost say more by talking less. Now, as you can see, I sit here and talk to a camera and myself and all of you for 30 minutes, sometimes an hour, but so that could be a lesson for me that sometimes you can say more by talking less, but I always like to try to, do the opposite, to try to at least make it make sense for someone, because sometimes you have to say something a different way for it to make sense to somebody else. But as you can see, ladies and gentlemen, interfere less and substitute listening for directing and telling. He didn't say substitute listening for talking there. It said substitute listening for directing and telling. Interesting distinction. When someone offers you their viewpoint, try to respond with, I've never considered that before. Thank you, and I'll give it some thought. Now, at the end of every one of these wonderful little chapters from Wayne Dyer and Lao-tzu from 2,500 years ago and 25 years ago, maybe a little bit longer than that, probably when he wrote this book. But, ladies and gentlemen, at the end of every one of these chapters, which is why you should get this book for yourself to put it on your shelf, and which is why it's linked in the description below, he gives us a little paragraph there called Do the Tao Now. And it's a way that we can try to put the wisdom of each of these 81 verses of the Tao Te Ching into practical application in our lives, a way that we can use it. Today, Wayne says, do the Tao now. Do a meditation today, or a contemplation, I like to call it, because a lot of people are, overwhelmed with the whole meditation term. So do a contemplation or a thinking session today in which you picture yourself as having the same qualities of water. Picture yourself, and you could do this now if you want. So do a meditation today in where you picture yourself as having the same qualities of water. Allow your soft, weak, and yielding, fluid self to enter into places where you were previously excluded because of your inclination to be solid and hard. Flow softly into the lives of those with whom you feel conflicted. Picture yourself entering their private inner selves, seeing perhaps for the first time what they're experiencing. Keep this image of yourself as gently coursing water, and watch how your lives and your relationships and your experience of life changes. Boom, ladies and gentlemen. That was powerful. That was profound. And that was a boom to the wisdom of the Tao and living the wisdom of the Tao. Dr. Wayne Dyer, if you didn't know, was an internationally renowned author and speaker in the field of self-development, self-actualization. He was an author of 30 books and probably more, and created many audio programs, podcasts. He's got a podcast on Audible that's got hundreds of episodes. Ridiculous. Radio shows, audio books, and his audio books are like him giving lectures or speeches. So it's not just like, it's better than what I'm doing here, ladies and gentlemen. So please go check out Dr. Wayne W. Dyer's work. And so, with that being said, that was a boom to the wisdom of the Tao and the wisdom and the spiritual knowledge of living like water and being like water. Next week, ladies and gentlemen, we are on to the 79th verse of the Tao Te Ching. It will be on Tuesday. This was supposed to be Tuesday Tao, but since we missed Tuesday, I didn't want to skip the week. I wanted to bring you something, ladies and gentlemen. We needed it. So it's Thursday Tao today, but Tuesday Tao. Normally at least for 3 more weeks, ladies and gentlemen. It's kind of sad that we're getting to the end, but once again, we can always start again. And who knows how our thoughts will have developed since over a year and a half ago when we started this journey. This is a little poem here that's from The Way of Life, according to Lao-tzu, translated by Witter Bynner. This quote is attributed to Confucius after he visited the elder Lao-tzu to seek advice on points of ceremonial etiquette. It goes like this. Of birds, I know that they have wings to fly with. Of fish, that they have fins to swim with. Of wild beasts, that they have feet to run with. For feet, there are traps. For fins, there are nets. And for wings, arrows. But who knows how dragons surmount wind and cloud into heaven? This day I have seen Lao-tzu, and he is a dragon. Amazing, ladies and gentlemen. That's a cool little piece to end this video with. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that was a boom to living the wisdom of the Tao and a boom to knowledge. So thank you so much for being here, seeking after wisdom and truth and being a pure philosopher with that spiritual striving and the constant contemplation to attain the true knowledge of the nature of reality, or as the Hermetic philosophy would call it, the one God, Atum. But we all have different names for that which has no name, and even in great spiritual traditions such as the Tao and the Hermetics. And it always comes back to this point that thing that is God, that is the force, that it shall remain nameless. Even though we try to describe it, it really is indescribable. And so giving it whatever name that you feel fits for you and has that resonation of meaning and purpose, then by all means, ladies and gentlemen, continue to seek to achieve and maintain happiness through enlightenment, through a greater awareness and a greater understanding of the nature of reality, and continue to seek to discover the lost wisdom of the ages and the mysteries of our history. And also remember, ladies and gentlemen, that there is no way to happiness, because happiness is the way. And if we can begin to create the ability within ourselves to be able to bring happiness to life, then all the things we've been telling ourselves, oh, when I get that much money, or when I'm this kind of person, or whatever, becomes irrelevant, because then we are there, and the entire journey is wonderful, hopefully, ladies and gentlemen. All right. Thank you so much. I love and appreciate you. Be sure to expand the description to get this book for yourself so you can put it on your shelf, ladies and gentlemen. And also get yourself a landscape painting if my Etsy shop is still up. If it isn't, leave me a comment. Let me know about that or anything else you want to say. And thank you. Love and appreciate all of you who joined me here in the premieres in the live chat room. It's so great to see you. As well as get yourself, see a little box over there, C60 Purple Power, the most powerful antioxidant known to man. If you've never heard of C60 Purple Power, look it up because you're going to want to know about the power, purple power of the C60. Give yourself the gift of health, ladies and gentlemen. All right. I love and appreciate you. Until next week, be the change that you want to see. Be the example that we want to set. No, 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 no.